Oh man, it's gone.
You
You know, I just started this video right now because, man, you know, you see this branch just here? You see this? Look at this, right? No more than 5 minutes ago, that branch was way up there, wasn't it?
Yes.
We've been sitting here for about 15, 20 minutes, and the trees come right down to greet Marin.
Yes.
Right down to greet her in her face, right? I mean, you don't often see anything like this, how Mother Nature works, but this branch was nowhere near us, and it's coming right down, taking to Marin dramatically.
Wow.
It's very rare you see a miracle like this, guys. But here it is. Here it is happening right here, and it's just amazing to see this happening.
Yes.
Right? But that branch was way up there somewhere, and it's just buckled right down.
Yes.
Right to Marin. Like, this is how Mother Nature works, guys. This is some of the most incredible miracles that I talk about things happening and happens around us, because this video is very special, guys. Okay, this is something we want to share with all you guys. You know, I made a lot of videos about Marin here being very special and part of this process. You see, Marin's got multiple sclerosis. And in 1999, when she was 15 years old, you know, have you paid attention to my last video about the body snatchers and about how things take over us with parasites? Well, Marin had that experience when she was 15 years old in 1999. Something came inside her body and she lost complete use of her body. She couldn't function the same way that it happened to me. That's what made her come to me so fast. When she started to see my videos and she started to hear my story about things that happened to me, Marin knew. Marin knew that she couldn't explain, could you? She couldn't explain, because there are no words to explain, but she knew she was being possessed by something. Her mum tells a story about this, you know, the same thing. Her mum has no understanding really, yet they know something very mysteriously happened.
Yes.
And it's from that moment that the parasites came inside Marin. And she was in the street somewhere and all of a sudden lost all her body functions and didn't know where she was or what she was doing, didn't know what was going on. Rang up her mum and said, "Mum, just come and get me."
Yeah.
Right, just come and get me. But the way that Marin describes it is very similar to a lot of stories that I heard about the parasites, right? The body snatchers taking over people's body. And she's had that parasite in her, fighting her ever since. Okay, and this is what I'm saying to you. These parasites can't control you completely, but they'll try their best. And Marin knows that this is all part of a process here, and that's why you're here, guys. See, everything I said in part 1, 2, and 3 of these videos on YouTube, and this being part 4, you're going to experience something, guys. You're going to see it with your own 2 eyes, because Marin knows. Marin knows she's here for a reason, right? And you're here to witness this, guys. You're going to witness her get cured. You're going to watch her overcome this parasite and conquer. I first had my first remote viewing and my first vision of going into the past and in the future, and had this ability when I was 5 years old. I went up to my mum and I said, "Mum, where were we and what happened?" She said, "What do you mean, son?" And I told her about her most frightening moment that she experienced in 1944 in World War II. I explained to my mum exactly what happened to her and her mum, and it scared the living shit out of her, because I couldn't possibly have known at 5 years old. Since then, I've had many extraordinary abilities with remote viewing and seeing the past and seeing the future. Most people don't believe in it. Well, you know what's funny? As I said in the last video, I made a video yesterday on the witness page. And what I disclosed in this video about what the CIA, NASA, and the military has been using for a long time with superhuman abilities, with abilities that we have. And yet we are oppressed so much that we don't know how to use them ourselves. But they know how to transform things in us, and using certain drugs in paperclip program, mockingbird program, where we get sedated in such a way that we can use superhuman abilities that they use for their advantage. And people are coming out all over the world breaking free from amnesia and discovering the things that they did for the military and these programs. There's a lot of information here I'll go into, but you know, you have to understand something. They're laughing right in your face and they're using us. And they're using our abilities. Because the real society is real. The real society is represented, the lizards that live underground, that works with the Illuminati and works together because they work for the same God, which is known as the Antichrist. That's why they work together. But you know, the real society live underground. They're lizards and they haven't got much power above ground. So they create the parasites that goes into the alien abductions into people and possesses them. And that's what I've got into a lot of details about with these videos I exposed this morning. What you never heard about the UFOs. Dated June the 9th, 1923 with the Prophecy Club. And I hope you watch those videos and all the disclosures of the UFO disclosure of a guy who's a whistleblower. And also the melanoma disease, right, which is a parasite. What you got to understand is that we know about the parasites. We have the experience, which my knowledge to have these things embedded inside us. And Marin is one of those people where it's taken out of spine, right? The spinal cord. And controlling the spinal cord, where Marin loses control like she's possessed because she's got no control. And it is possessed of the body, isn't it? It's possessed of all your organs. And she's aware of that. She's aware how this parasite works and it's not human. She knows how this thing embedded inside her all of a sudden out of the blue, out of nowhere, back in 1999, and it come from nowhere. See, multiple sclerosis is not something that just happens, right, that you're embedded in your DNA or genetics. It's something that possesses you, the parasites. And only a person that has genuine experience, which my knowledge knows this, and Marin's one of those people. That's why I'm going into a lot of details about how these parasites are also used, right, in people through drugs, right, to control people and then use their superhuman abilities because they're jealous, spiteful cowards. See, we're created in a perfect image to use these abilities, but then we'd be confused so much so we can't. So they then sedate us with drugs so they can use us for those abilities with superhuman abilities they don't have. The inverted people don't have that. Those that are inverted and not in the image that we're in, they can't use those tools. That's why they use us and confuse us not to know who we are and the abilities that we have. The military, CIA, they've always used this with super soldiers and super armies, and that's what they do to this very day, with hybrids and clones as well, with mRNA technology and manipulation. The parasites that are taking over the human civilization is the details I've given you about. Most people aren't human anymore because they're controlled by that parasite. They're possessed by the devil. Now that's a recorded, proven fact all over the world. In all the disclosures that I've given you in the last video alone, gives you the information that you can Google and look up yourself through all these platforms all over the world. And you'll see when you put the pieces together that the world's possessed by the devil. So when you see the videos about the whole masses being polarized in the hypnotized state, that's what you're watching. You're watching these parasites possess people. You see, the same thing happened to Marin that happened to me. The parasite's in there but can't take over her. Right? Can't take over her. Couldn't push her out of a vessel, but they tried. It tried to push her out of a vessel as she was being possessed by the devil or possessed by the parasites, which is from the Brel society. The Brels, right? Let me tell you about the Brels. Okay, they're an alien civilization that lives underground. They're reptilians, right? They created the Netherlands. They're the fallen angels. That's why people are so confused about this. But the Brel society is the inverted, right? That David Icke talks about. And that's what Nimrod and Gilgamesh and these people really were, the Freemasons. That's the Brel society. Okay, that's artificially inseminated into the kids. Okay, you know, that's what you have to understand. Perseus, Hades, Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades, right? They were fallen angels, right? And their children was the Netherlands, like Perseus or Hercules, and they didn't want to follow their forefathers' footsteps because they knew they were evil. I can go into so many details about this, which I have in many videos, but what you have to understand is something very careful. Marilyn, I've gotten rid of parasites from other people before that's been possessed for years. You know, there was a woman that was possessed by the same parasites for more than 20 years, in and out of mental hospitals. She was fighting the system non-stop. She was fighting the parasites. In a 5-hour session, after being in and out of mental hospitals for 22 years and fighting the parasites, it took me 5 hours to convince her she's possessed by the devil, by an entity with a personality that controls her body. And that the girl inside her, right, the girl inside her, the real person inside her was being controlled by another entity. When I broke through her thick skull with this in 5 hours, she started to rattle like hell and go through a transformation over the next 3-4 months, and she became free and never took any drugs, mental disorder tablets, and never went back to a mental hospital ever again. This is where I've achieved with so many people, breaking them free from amnesia and breaking them free from the reincarnation trap and breaking them free from what we call the human conditioning. I want to explain something to you. When we go into biblical history, right, about the things I disclosed in the last video, I want you to pay attention to me very carefully. They had the human conditioning, okay, where people were suffering from the parasites, from reverse psychology, and possessed by the devil in the days of Babylon, right? The same with the Persians, the Greeks, and then the Roman days. In the Roman days, right, remember Jesus goes up to a person with leprosy, and he had rashes all over him, and that's melanoma, the same thing, the same parasites. And everybody tried to keep away from the people that was possessed by the devil like this. Mary was possessed by the devil and had psychological behavior, and no one could fix it, right? Even the top priest could not do an exorcism on her to stop the mental disorders that she had, but Jesus fixed her in a heartbeat like that and got that parasite right out of her body, okay? Because these parasites, they control people in all sorts of different ways, right? But some people have a spiritual warfare against their psychological warfare with these parasites. When you understand that correctly, you understand something else. Everybody had to keep away from those with leprosy, and those with leprosy, they had the same skin disorders as the parasites we see in melanoma, right? The same things I talk about, right? And Jesus could fix it like that, right? Because those parasites, in the name of Jesus, right, he has the power to get rid of them, and so do you in the same name. It's important you understand that in the time that we're in. Because those parasites, right, he could cure them like that, where they left the body and healed immediately. Once you understand that process correctly, in the name of Jesus, right, these parasites will vacate your body because there are laws of life they have to comply to. And those laws of life are very important, right? They have to comply to those laws of life. And that's what you have to understand about life at the moment. These parasites have possessed people all over the world. People are having a spiritual battle against them, right? Well, the Rel people, right? The Rel people is what's represented in the movie Predator. Predator is one of those reptilians, right? One of those aliens that lives underground. And they go by heat sensors because they're reptilians. They're reptilians, that's why. And they're great hunters, right? But there's only a few of them. But they work with the Illuminati, but see, people, us, we have the power. And the Illuminati, the inverted people, and the Rels, they're very jealous about us because they don't have the abilities that we have. That's why the military, Babylon, NATO, that's why they use all these abilities in psycho programs, paperclip programs, and all these things to use us to create those superhuman abilities. But we're so confused invertedly in our mind that we don't have these abilities naturally. So they sedate us with drugs and then use us in their front line in the military through psycho programs where they use our abilities with superhuman abilities, so we can do and we can kill when the voice tells us to. That's how they control us. And the real society, which you can read about, okay, they have done exchanges with the military, right, to give them advanced technology, such as the UFO machinery, right? Such as all the things you're using all over the world today. Because the truth is, the real society, if they wanted to leave this planet, they would, but they can't. Because they're the fallen angels. And they're stuck here inside the earth in these tunnels. They're stuck in there. Because God put them in there, didn't he? That's why they can't get out. And that's why they used the military and made exchanges with them, so that these parasites come out and been body snatching all over the world. That's what the body snatchers are all about, and the alien invasion. So many people confused about this. So confused about this. But see, a lot of people's had an alien invasion or abduction. Okay, a lot of people talk about that all over the world because they could not be possessed by the devil, right? But they can't remember half of the things that happen in those experiments. Those experiments aren't experiments. Those experiments is an artificial insemination of those parasites that goes in through your eyeball, into your brain, and into your spinal cord and control you, right? And possesses your body and pushes your soul out of your body. That's what I went through myself and the people that I talk about, right? A lot of people's been possessed by the devil like this, and of course no one believes about being possessed by the devil, do they? Well, Jesus is a great example of that, right? And how many people suffered this parasites back then? Because the whole Roman Empire collapsed, and 75% of people ended up being possessed by the parasites back then. People oblivious to this. They get stuck in a reincarnation trap and they die, and wish they were dead, and they die. And they all get eliminated like this way, right? Because they are the inverted that gets possessed by the devil, right? Now, people don't want to talk about being possessed by the devil. Of course they don't. It's an alien invasion, right? It's sound frequencies and all these things, and that's what you'd rather detain yourself with, isn't it? If I tell you something about frequencies and aliens, you'd believe in that more than you believe in the devil itself, or the dark entity, right? Or angelica beings, because they are angelica. You don't seem to realise that. Well, you know, like I said, everything's made into science fiction with a Hollywood spin. But if you can understand Predator, right? The reality is it can't show itself in flesh, but it could many years ago, and it's about to show itself again. Just think about that. When these parasites come into people, right, and possess our bodies, understand how they possess, right, and how they also control and how they resurrect into hybrids. And those hybrids, they use the hybrids, right, with MR technology, because graphene oxide gold is what they need to make hybrids with, to conduct with, so those entities can resurrect inside hybrids and clones. And the planet is full of clones and hybrids, man, believe me. You may not want to believe that, but trust me. The planet is full of hybrids and clones and inverted people that are no longer human. That's why it's been declared in so many documents. All this civilization all the way around you, your neighbours are probably clones or inverted hybrids, right? That's what they really are. They're inverted human beings because they can't use their moral values in the right place. Many people pretend they're moral, but have a look at them in real life. They still support every single thing that their godfathers tells them to do, or their forefathers' footsteps. They always listen to the voice in their mind. And they always will, no matter what comes out of their mouth. You know, you can always tell a human being by the footsteps that they follow, no matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they say. Their action speaks louder than words. And what do? They feed into the marketing strategy and follow the elect, and follow the elite, and follow the cabal, because that's who they really are. That is their forefathers' footsteps. And 90% of people follow their forefathers' footsteps because they're not God's children. They're not even human, right? A person who's human was fighting they're fighting those parasites. Most of you people that found me here went through some kind of trauma on drugs to numbing yourself and were suffering the consequences, sitting in the corner somewhere because you knew something was going on. You were fighting the parasites. Let me tell you something. And it's very uncomfortable, but I've gone into the details in my last video to show you evidence of how these things were created with radio waves and Bluetooth all over the world, right? These parasites, okay, you felt the darkness come over the planet from 2012 onwards, and especially 2020, and you've seen it yourself. You've seen the experts talk all over the world that majority of the population, right, went into this marching thing with you know what that unfolded all over the world, right? Everybody's following each other and said that we should all die and we should be locked up if we don't do what they do. You see, they're so evil, right? So evil in this world that they follow the masses, and they always follow the masses with the governments and the authorities, and they want the rest of us locked up or dead, right? And they've got no regret towards us not taking the jabbies, right? That's what they're saying all over the world, isn't it? Well, now it's proven by the top physiologists and the top scientists of the world that they're so heavily inverted, they can't even think straight anymore, right? And they're possessed by the devil. That's reported, right, on the mainstream media, on some of the newspapers and the front page of the papers in these documents. In these documents, you're seeing some real unbelievable truth here from Donald Marshall report, right? And I want you to pay attention to these things and these videos that I've just exposed, which is also exposed by the Prophecy Club and the Prophecy Watchers. This is the zombie state we're in, where the walking dead are around us everywhere. We're in the time of the walking dead, the zombies. And people don't even believe in it. Listen, the devil's already possessed everyone on the planet. It's already happened, man. You're going into the final moment, the last 3.5 years until 227. Those that don't get their priorities right, it's going to suffer the consequences no matter what. You have to fight these parasites or give up. If you give up, like most people did, you're going to suffer the consequences for 1,000 years and wish you were dead. I want you to take a listen to what's happening around the world. These parasites go into a person's body and controls them and push their soul out, and they never return. They become someone else. They're possessed by the devil. They're possessed by these parasites, and it's being disclosed by the UFO disclosure, and they're not stopping this disclosure. Listen, I've watched 4 different reports about these parasites, right? And I've dealt with people all over the world that's been controlled by these parasites, and Marin's one of them. Marin knows. And a person that knows the truth is experiencing the truth with great wisdom and knowledge, and guess what? She knows that it's having a good crack. And she also knows that in the name of Jesus Christ, I'm the one that's going to save her. I'm the one that's going to pull this through on her, and you're going to watch it. And I predicted this a couple of weeks ago. I said, I'm going to predict this, right? Exactly what happened to me and why I have these tools. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this, and you're going to see this with your own 2 eyes, that Marin's going to raise the occasion and come out of this wheelchair in ways that, you know, in ways that's going to show you how to also take control of this situation. So remember, the 27th of September, 2/27, 27th of September, the Holy Spirit, the divine light, and judgment, that's the scales, right? Do not forget this date. For God's sake, you have between now and then to get this right, because this is being exposed all over the world now, right? This is what's happening to the world. All the inverted civilization in the whole world is possessed by the parasites. And that's why we're here today, and that's why Marin's here today, because Marin really wanted you all guys to know. She knows, don't you, Marin? Mm-hmm. She knows exactly what's going on. That's why she come to me, because she knows. She knows I'm curing people all over the world, and she knows that I'm her greatest chance in this battle, because she was suffering this battle before she come to me, weren't you? Mm-hmm. She was seriously suffering until she come to me, and she's been in peace since then, and she's still suffering from the battle, but she has no fear. No. Do you, Marin? No. Absolutely no fear. Like, this lady is sitting here next to me, and she literally knows that she's been possessed by the devil, man. But look at how nature's treating her, man. Look at how nature's treating her. She's in contact with nature, and Mother Nature works with her, and believe me, she has no fear whatsoever, because she knows the parasite, right, is going to lose this mission inside her. Hey, Marin. Say something. Say hello to everyone.
Yeah, say.
You know what Marin's like? White as a baby's mouse.
Yes.
She speaks in, her silence speaks in volumes, guys. And she sends you her love too.
Yes, I do.
She does.
I do.
And she is getting better, guys. She's getting her strength back. The smiles on her face, and believe me, she went through one of the biggest psychological warfares just the other night.
Yes.
She really did. Right? She really did have a massive attack the other night. And she knows, because she became so pumped with adrenaline that her blood sugar level went sky high, right? Her blood pressure went straight through the roof, and her heartbeat was up to about 150, 160, yes. Right? And she knew the devil was having the biggest crack, but since then, he's starting to screw hard and leave her body again.
Yes.
These parasites won't win.
Yes.
They haven't got to open hell with Marin, not when she's next to me. But listen, all your love out there and all your prayers goes a long way, but remember what you're facing here, guys. And that's why I'm telling you, right, believe me, what's about to unfold is these parasites is given permission to take every one of us. But you know, no weapon formed against you can prosper. Right? Don't you forget that, and you will not have a death experience. Okay? But this is trying times, and that's why you need to pay attention to the last video that I posted. Because believe me, the military is using these superhuman abilities that you can't even use yourself. Right? This means that the armies and the military has been using these abilities. You can go and look at Jason Shurka and look at the interview with Ray and other hybrids with Ismail Perez and the abilities that they've been using here, right? The abilities that you read about. See, they use people from the underground world, from the street, that can do these things, because ordinary human beings can't do none of these things, and they can't use ordinary people. They are the slavery system that they drive, right, in a very sophisticated system, right, where everyone's been created from sex, and it's not a hoax. They're created from sex, and they are the inverted, and only a person who's conceived through genuine love and compassion are the ones that are real human beings. They can use their intuition, the others can't. They justify every single thing with reason and reverse psychology, and they are the inverted that has no moral values and just justify everything they believe in on reverse psychology. To put themselves on a pedestal, think they know better, but they argue, debate and debunk and divide because they use inverted tools to be competitive. And the competitive creatures here in the world are the ones possessed by the devil, by the parasites. You better believe it, brother. Nearly every person in the world that you can see anywhere in the world is controlled by the parasites, and that's a fact. They can even see it in MRIs. They know. And in case you don't realise, I want you to know something. Marin's had an MRI, and she has the parasite inside her mind. Is it not true? It is true, and guess what? You watch this thing disappear and get buckled and get fucked up the arse, because I'm going to fuck at that heart. It wouldn't know what hit it. Trust me. It is the one thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to fuck that parasite and get rid of it the way I've done it before, because I'm not afraid of the devil. Fuck him. That motherfucker's not going to touch her with a 10-foot pole by the time I'm done. And you might sit there and laugh about this, but have you ever fought this? I have fought this many a times, and believe me, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I was designed for this moment. I was designed for this moment with these parasites that's taking over with an alien invasion in practically every single human being on earth, and 99% of people don't believe in it. And believe me, those that argue and debate about this, they're not human, man. Don't listen to any of these cocksuckers. They're not even human. These people that argue with you all the time, they're not human. Don't waste your breath on these morons, man. They're not human. Do you understand that? We're the only ones here that are human, the ones that listens with eyes to see and that can feel things between right, wrong, good and evil. Every other motherfucker in this world that believes in anything else, fucking man. They're not human. Don't even worry about them. Just use them for your entertainment. They're here to entertain us as well. Do you know that? You can use these motherfuckers and put them in front of you, because you know what? You know what you really do? You look after the children and you put your neighbours in front. Satan wants you to stand in front of your neighbour, and that's the greatest manipulation in the world. Pixars, put your neighbour in front of you, buddy. Trust me, because your neighbour's nothing more than a fucking alien. Nothing but an artificial human being. They're all artificial in this world, and you should know better than that. Right? Let me tell you something. I want to tell you something that's really, really, really clear. When you get doctors and scientists all over the world that conforms and complies to the system, it doesn't matter how much they say they're human, because their action speaks louder than words. Would you do any of the things that they're doing today? Would you support any of the things that they're doing? Would you support any of this dysfunctional behaviour that they're supporting out there? Of course you wouldn't. No genuine human being would ever support what's been unfolding for 3.5 years. Not one. That's why we are waking up, and we will not support what everybody else turns a blind eye to, because they're not human, man. They support Baal, and Baal's taking over the planet, and the sooner you wake up to that, the better off you'll be. So anyway, until we get to part 5, guys, love you all, and believe me, the information you're going to get here is going to be very dramatic. So I hope that you paid attention to part 3, or the video made on Facebook before, with the mainstream use of the UFO whistleblower and the parasites the parasites that's invading the human civilization that's been disclosed all over the world. See, now it's the most interesting time to wake up. So understand what's really happening in the world and how everybody in the world is dealing with this psychological warfare against their spirit. Okay? Because this is a battle for good and evil, guys. This is a battle and a division between good and evil. Okay, so we'll catch you later, guys. Love you all right?